So, with the immunity syndrome, and boy, would like some immunity now, huh? Yeah, well, the Enterprise encounters a giant cell. This is an episode where the concept might not be all that strong, but the power of the relationships between the big three, that being Kirk, Spock, and McCoy, and in this case mostly Spock and McCoy, shines forth and basically saves the show. I mean, the concept here is that there's this giant one-celled organism. It's 11 miles in width. If there had been some other explanation, I mean, that it resembles a cell, but it's, obviously it's made up of, a bunch of other cells, that is some strange entity that they're encountering, and that would be fine, but that kind of pushed it a bit. So anyway, the danger that they're in is that they're going to have to face this monster. They start off saying that the crew has been really busy lately and are dead tired and need a break. And then all of a sudden, Starfleet says, nah, you're the only ship in the area and you need to go see something happened with Starship Intrepid, which the crew of which is completely Vulcan. It's a Vulcan crew. And suddenly they all die at once, and Spock senses a disturbance in the Force and has a reaction to this. And so McCoy's a bit skeptical of this, which kind of sets up this interesting irony between the two, and that McCoy's always kind of complaining about Spock's lack of emotion and caring and whatnot, but Spock kind of points out that McCoy's being a bit insensitive here after what just happened, and it plays out in the show as well. There's a point where they're sending these probes into the entity, and they get some information from it, but not enough, as the probe is destroyed by it. So eventually they have to send a manned shuttle mission in there, and the choice is down to Spock or Bones. And Bones has more of the medical knowledge, but he doesn't have the Vulcan physiology that can withstand the dangers, the life-sapping forces of the entity. So Spock goes in. And before Spock leaves, Spock suggests that McCoy wish him luck, but McCoy just won't do it to his face, so he waits till he leaves and then does it. And this odd thing, McCoy, berates him about emotion, and yet at the same time he can't bring himself to show his feelings and care about Spock, and so it's this it's a bit of an odd irony between the two in that aspect, although it's all pretty obvious. I mean, at the end, Spock is telling them, don't bother trying to save me, get out, and McCoy blasts him, just shut up, Spock, we're saving you, and all that. So there you go, and this happens. There's a couple other incidents throughout the series of this sort of thing, but that it's there, but it is this odd irony demanding Spock show more emotion, but he won't do the same. So yeah, but other than that's kind of the stronger part here of that, and you because you enjoy how rich and credible the relationship is between these beloved characters in this sense of how it carries out there. So basically, it's one of these things that, again, is like, well, the Enterprise survives it. Well, how come the Intrepid couldn't? And but there's always scenarios of this where you're investigating what the first crew failed to do, and then somehow your main cast succeeds because they're the stars. But they have the advantage of they know something's up. They know there's a threat. They're not, and so they're on their guard. Whereas the Intrepid really wasn't so much, and it was too late for them. So in the end, antimatter is the answer because they're going to be the antibodies. So that's pretty much what they did. And they destroy the entity. Otherwise, it would have reproduced itself, and there would have ended up being millions of these, 11-mile creatures. And then they said, oh, we'd be the virus in their galaxy, and all that. And so there you go. It does establish, there was some complaints about how they handled Vulcan mind melding in the new series of Discovery, where it was more like the Jedi and stuff. This doesn't quite lend credence to that, as it was this rather shocking thing of 400 Vulcans crying out at once as they suddenly died in this torturous pain that this entity causes them. And then Spock senses it. And then it's later confirmed when they get the information, well, we've lost contact with Intrepid, find out what happened. Well, it was destroyed by this creature. So, but that's not quite the same as just, us using the Vulcan mind meld over light years to Skype call one another. It doesn't quite work that way. So, no, it doesn't really lend credence to that. So, anyway, so yeah, this is an example where you've got this cast that works well, and people, they like them, and there was a charm about them, and that was one of the powers of Star Trek, not just its concepts, which were strong, but not always. And even when that happened, you still had a cast that can carry your show when things like that happen. And just the idea of going into danger and all that, it's all part of an adventure story. But I just, the giant cell, and well, but it explained another way, it's fine. So, yeah, I like the episode, but I can see the problems there. It also has probably one of the worst scenes of the Enterprise, where it's always being attacked and everybody's tumbling and falling around, and the joke has always been, why don't they put seatbelts in the seats? And it's a good point. But boy, I tell you, this one was particularly bad. I mean, there's basically Shatner's just obviously moving his chair around, and at the end of it, he kind of leans forward like he's going to pick up a quarter off the floor, and it's just, yeah, that one wasn't choreographed very well in that, but what are you gonna do? Anyway, the immunity syndrome. Well, not so immune to old TV failings, but yeah, come on, it's Star Trek, it's good.